You have no right to live here." That was the first thing out of Karen's mouth, loud enough to make the blue jays scatter. Her face twisted up like she just swallowed a lemon whole right there on my property. Mind you, this was a woman I'd barely spoken to in 3 years now, yelling about HOA violations while standing on land I bought specifically to get away from people like her. I mean, the irony almost made me laugh if I hadn't wanted to punch a hole in the nearest pine tree. 5 acres of mountain freedom, and somehow the HOA nonsense followed me like mold creeping under fresh paint. She waved those official papers at me, all red stamps and bad intentions, claiming I owed thousands to an HOA I'd never even joined. My fists clenched, my jaw locked up. I could feel that old familiar heat of injustice rising up my spine. Something was way off. And let me tell you, that was just the start of the nightmare. Go back with me 3 years, sitting across from Rebecca Davis in her law office, cramped stacks of paper everywhere, that old fax machine grinding away like some mechanical heart attack. The divorce papers were neat, tidy, like someone was trying to add a bow on a disaster. But next to them, there's this thick mess labeled Maplewood Heights HOA violations in red, like a warning light you can't ignore. Rebecca stopped at the page with Abigail Williams, HOA president, stamped in permanent ink, running her finger along the signature. It was almost reverent, honestly, like she respected how much trouble this woman could cause. But what really haunted me, it wasn't Amanda telling me she wanted out of our marriage. Wasn't even Rebecca explaining asset division in that lawyerly way. No, it was the relentless drone of that fax machine spitting out citations one after another like punishment raining down. I still get a tightness in my chest thinking about drowning in paper while my marriage cracked apart. 6 months before that, Amanda and I were what realtors call the perfect suburban couple. Maplewood Heights was supposed to be all beige, siding, perfect hedges, mailbox exactly 18 inches from the curb. HOA rules down to the inch, not 17, not 19. The handbook was 237 pages single-spaced, policing everything from the shade of brown on the front door to how tall your grass could get. Amanda tried. God, she really did. When Abigail Williams knocked that first-time clipboard ready, Amanda let her in for coffee. Abigail moved through our home like a general taking notes on non-compliant throw pillows. Apparently teal is the color of anarchy, and those wind chimes I'd hung on the porch. By the time she left, we had a stack of citations thick enough to make the IRS jealous. And they just kept coming: the fence, the roses, the porch light. Every week, another note, another fine. Interest building like a debt you never agreed to. Abigail always found something new, things you wouldn't even notice unless your job was to make other people miserable. She showed up at all hours, that clipboard swinging, taking pictures at dawn, measuring flower bed stones. I'd see her out there counting the rocks. It got absurd. Breaking point, Saturday morning, October. I'm up on a ladder installing a motion sensor light because we'd had some break-ins, and here comes Abigail. Doesn't say a word, just watches me scribbling. When I finish, she hands me a citation she'd already written for unauthorized electrical modification. $500 fine if I didn't take it down. Something inside me just snapped, quietly, like a spring giving out. I looked at the woman who'd made my wife cry over a doormat, who'd turned our dream house into a prison. That's when I realized you don't win against a system like this. It's not designed for you to win. It's designed to grind you down citation by citation until you give in. Compliance is always easier than resistance. One person understood Ben Bradley 3 doors down. He was on the HOA board, but he had some sympathy. Real estate attorney said he'd moved here for the same reasons we had: good schools, peace, steady property values. Ben would swing by sometimes, swapping stories about other folks Abigail had targeted. Half the board wants her gone, he'd say, but she's got the bylaws memorized. She knows exactly where the line is. He said he'd try to rein her in. Proposed reforms never happened. If anything, Abigail doubled down. More violations, more creativity. Amanda painted our door Williamsburg blue, looked identical to 3 others on the street, but that wasn't good enough. Cited for non-conforming color variants, had to repaint. We planted tulips measured too close together, fined again. Amanda left me 2 weeks after that garage light incident. Not because she stopped loving me, she said. She just couldn't live in a place where every day was another round of anxiety over breaking some rule no sane person would make. Checking the mailbox became like checking for medical test results. She couldn't take it. And I got it even though it broke me. Rebecca Davis, my lawyer, listened to all this, took it in with that practiced sympathy. Alex, she said, buy land in the mountains, unincorporated. No HOA, no committees, just you and the trees. I swear it sounded like someone opening a window after months underwater. She knew about a place 5 acres on Mountain Ridge just outside the city, not under any HOA. It bordered Maplewood Heights, but wasn't under their thumb. Unincorporated land is your friend, she told me, pointing out the property lines on a map. HOA has 0 jurisdiction. The land had been on the market forever because everyone wanted amenities. I bought it. Spent a year building a little red cabin, my retreat, my office, my proof that freedom still existed somewhere. 3 years it was paradise. Painted the cabin bright red just because I could. Wildflowers grew like chaos along the drive, and my closest neighbor was half a mile away. I worked on my deck, helped clients from all over, enjoyed the view. No citations, no Abigail. I actually started to heal. Then today, Karen Collins shows up screaming HOA nonsense on my property. I'm thinking, wait, Abigail Williams died in a car crash 2 years back. Why does this HOA Extension Committee have her signature? Why is Karen acting like she has power over my land? I dug out all my deeds, the map, the notarized documents, clear as day. My land is outside HOA reach. But the signature on Karen's violation notice looks suspiciously like Abigail's. So like any rational person, I Google everything. Sure enough, Abigail's obituary pops up, a quick funeral, mostly board members. But this extension committee thing, established years after Abigail's death, registered at her old address, language so generic it's practically wallpaper. I drive by the house supposedly for sale, but someone's living there. A blue sedan, just like Karen's. 2 days later, Karen shows up again, friendly this time. She explains she's the new HOA president, just moved in after her own divorce, wants community cooperation, not control, voluntary services. She says snow plowing, trash pickup, utility maintenance. The fees are reasonable, the paperwork is short, and everything's voluntary. I sign. Why not? It saves me money. She seems genuine, and I'm tired of being at war. First, it's the truck. Could I move it so it doesn't block the view? Then the light's too bright for stargazing. Then my wildflower garden, lovely, but maybe a bit too wild. Every request is polite, not a violation, just neighborly. I go along but start to notice my place is slowly morphing bit by bit into exactly the kind of orderly community standard I'd run from. Then the surveyors show up. Markers shift inward, I lose 10 feet of property. I call the county, they say it's routine maintenance. Sure. And here's the kicker, buried in the voluntary agreement is a clause about boundary verification for service provision. It's a setup. I check Karen's car at Abigail's old house. It's her. The dots start connecting. New expansion meeting, fancy invites, gold lettering, big promises about regional property value optimization. But the proposal, HOA services for everyone in a half-mile radius. And if you don't formally object within 30 days, you're in. Karen's running this like a corporate merger. The Q&A makes it clear no more traditional violations, just service adjustments. Non-compliance could mean losing snow removal or utility access. Suddenly my independence is hanging by a thread. Then the real war starts. County code enforcement drops by with inspections. Septic systems, solar panels, well water, each with a fat fee and a deadline. All within weeks. Coincidence? Please. I call Ben for help. He assures me the HOA can't force annexation, but administrative pressure is their game. He'll help with paperwork to assert my independence. Sounds good, except buried in his paperwork. There's a binding arbitration clause routing everything through a mediation company he runs. Convenient, right? Next thing I know, my property taxes triple. Why enhanced municipal service zone? That's HOA language. The voluntary agreement I signed included a clause about arbitration through Ben's company. Suddenly, every path to fight back is blocked by his system. I confront him, lay out the timeline. He drops the mask, admits Karen's paying him 10 times what my case is worth. It's just business, Alex. You were never my friend. That stings more than anything. I realize Karen doesn't want my land. She wants voluntary compliance to make independence financially impossible. Eventually, she knows I'll cave. Except I don't. I dig deeper. I call Rebecca again and she points out a way to challenge the arbitration as biased since Ben set it up to benefit the HOA. I test the system, file a dispute, and get a ruling from a so-called independent arbitrator whose surprise used to be Ben's law partner. The whole thing's a closed loop rigged from the start. Here's where the twist comes in. Remember that recording device behind my bookshelf, the one for break-ins? Turns out it caught everything, including Karen, or should I say Abigail, on my deck, taking a call about Phase 3 being complete, how I was financially vulnerable. The media campaign worked, and asset seizure would proceed once I defaulted on my taxes. She even talked about using Abigail Williams' death records to expand the HOA campaign. That's when it hit me. Karen Collins is Abigail Williams using a fake identity to run a multi-state property scam. Armed with audio, I bring it all to the FBI. They dig into Ben and Karen, find evidence of insurance fraud, forged identities, and harassment operations targeting dozens of property owners. Federal agents raid their homes, seize files, and bring them down. Both end up in court. Abigail. Karen goes away for good. Ben turns state's witness and apologizes in writing. The HOA pays me damages plus a monthly consulting fee for a decade, just so they never forget what it cost to target the wrong guy. These days, I sit on my blue cabin porch, wildflowers blooming everywhere, mailbox full of settlement checks, and not a single citation in sight. Neighbors come by to ask how I pulled it off, and I tell them document everything, never trust voluntary agreements, and if an HOA shows up at your door, bill them for your time. So now I've got a question for you after all this. Do you think HOAs protect communities, or are they just a way for the power-hungry to run wild? Ever had your own run-in with a nightmare neighbor or a crooked board? Drop your story below. Let's see whose is the wildest. And if you want more tales of justice served, mountain-style, hit that subscribe. You never know when the next Abigail Williams is moving in next door.